I do. Can I switch off my video, or do I have to leave my video on? Just the screen on only, right? Sure, no one wants to see my face, right?
On you're handsome.
Yeah, like scared bandwidth is an issue. And then the light, you can see the light all like shining on my head, man. Damn it. It's like a human, uh, lighthouse. All right, I think we can start. All right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining, everyone. So yeah, I've been given about 2 hours to talk. And 2 hours may either seem like a very long time or a very short time. Depending on whether you find this boring or you find this interesting, lah. Yeah. So this is like Einstein's theory of relativity, right? Time flies when you're having fun. In a particularly boring lesson or boring lecture or boring class, time can go really slow as well. So generally speaking, this is, although we put a workshop, but this is, I would say, part one of two series lah. I won't cover the workshop, the practical part yet. I am actually going to run through what gamification is all about, um, what it is, what it's not, how it can be more effective, yeah, and the theories behind game design and everything. So it's a little bit of examples here and there as well, yeah. So hopefully, if you guys are still interested after the 2 hour or long session, then yeah, we can proceed on with the practical. All right, so it's not going to be 2 hours. The last time I had a talk like this, 1 hour was not enough. I think 2 hours a bit long, so we'll try to keep it in between times lah. Yeah, the time slot. All right, and the problem is actually I don't know how long and how short I have to share sometimes. So feel free anytime to ask questions on the chat. Yeah, if you want to also unmute yourself and ask questions, please feel free to. And let's try to make this as semi-interactive or as interactive as possible. All right, so back to the title, okay? I call it applied gamification. It's not just gamification, but how to apply gamification in your classes. And through my experiences, what worked or what doesn't work or what didn't work, yeah? So basically, the title is, the art of games design in gamifying gamification. Yeah. And as you know, the concept of gamification, although it's not new, gamification has been around for the past 20 years. It really took off. The concept of gamification really took off in about 2008, 2009. But gamification itself is not new. The act of gamification using elements such as badges and points has been around since the 1950s, since loyalty cards came into place, since credit card came into place. Yeah, so credit card is a form of gamification, if you guys don't already know, because you earn points and you can use the points to redeem stuff, yeah, rewards. So in a way, that is gamification in a nutshell. And yeah, but gamification in the classrooms, I think, really took off during the pandemic when we were all forced to go online. And as you know, online is an extremely challenging uh, way or method to conduct classes. I'm not sure how many of you actually enjoy online classes. I feel that online classes, the need to try harder to make things engaging is incredibly stressing, right? It makes, at the end of the day, especially for me, online classes tend to take a toll on me. Yeah, after a long day, I go like, oh my god, I'm glad that's over. It's different than when you have physical classes, because physical classes you interact with the students. There is an interaction going on. There is that energy going on. But online classes, you tend to just look at yourself and you're not even sure whether the students are sleeping, they're in the toilet, they're doing whatever lah. All right. So yeah, and a lot of people started using or exploring the idea of gamification. So before we start, let's just go here, yeah, and ask this question: what is gamification all about? Uh, a lot of people tend to think that gamification is using games itself. It's not. Gamification is basically the concept of employing video game mechanics in a non-game context. So non-game context could be things like recruitment, it could be things like training, health, wellness, human resource, marketing, organizational efficiency, yeah, part of human resource, and of course, education. And it has been gaining popularity over the past decade. Yeah, gamification, it's a buzzword nowadays. And the prevailing theory is this, that a successful application of gamification, right, can actually increase productivity, especially within a corporate environment, by transferring what is known as a positive mechanism found in video games. So we all know that video games has this uh, method, yeah, of immersion, interactivity, and engagement. People get addicted to video games, right? Time flies when you're having fun. You can spend 10 hours in the video games and not even notice that time has flown, right? Uh, People are so engaged in video games that they shut themselves off and they focus entirely on the video games. So gamification is basically the art and science of how to try to take that sort of elements inside and put it into something mundane, something boring, something which everyday people struggle to do, like work. Yeah. So gamification, they use gamification in HR activities to make factory more efficient, the factory line more efficient, and of course the study environment. And they do so by offering a somewhat more engaging, fun, and dynamic approach to working or the classroom environment. But gamification is not a 100% model. You can't simply apply gamification to anything and expect it to work. It's the same concept as video games. I can't create one video game and expect everybody to like it or everybody to be engaged in it. For example, I love playing first-person shooter, yeah, like Counter Strike or Call of Duty. You would never catch me playing puzzle game, and the puzzle game may be really fun, really addictive, really really interesting, but I will not be engaged with it. So gamification is not a be-all and all. You can't expect to have a gamified environment and expect everybody to be engaged. So how do you then apply gamification? So hopefully at the end of the 2 hours here, or the end of the 1.5 hours here, Michelle, please don't sleep. Uh, we can try to explore that portions of it. Yeah. So I like to also try to you to explain what gamify is. Yeah. So gamify is to apply typical elements of game playing. Yeah, so not so much about the game mechanics, but gameplay. So things like point scoring, competition, rules, feedbacks, um, outcomes, all those things which are usually uh, associated with gameplay. Yeah, and so we basically gamify something is to apply those elements to an activity to encourage engagement with a product or service. Or in another way, it's basically to turn an activity or a task into a game or something resembling a game. So that's gamify. Yeah, I want to turn a task into something resembling a game. All right. So it's a method of making gamification more video game centric. So when I say gamifying gamification through the use of game design, it's how to bring all those elements of video games into gamification, because at the end of the day, and I'll explain why as we go along, gamification is not so much, and people uh, don't really put in elements of video games. Um, Rewards, leaderboards, badges, in actual fact, are not aspects of video games that really, or at least in nowadays, not really aspects of video games that interest the younger generation. And I'll explain why later. So, all right, let's begin. And I just realized I've just spent the last 10 minutes on the first introductory slide. So you guys are in for a roller coaster ride. Everyone's still there? Or has everyone shut themselves off and switch on their uh, computer but doing something else to gain training hours, which I do that also. Yeah. All is here. So at once in a while, do encourage me. Just type on the chat. Just say, yes, I'm here, or all okay. I'm not bored. Or if you're bored, you can just say, I'm bored. Or Ike, yeah, there's a fly on your head. Yeah, just, yeah, all good. Okay. Thanks, Julian, listening. All right. Okay, so let's begin by addressing the keyword games. Okay. To really understand gamification, it's a journey. Okay. So we have to actually understand the keyword games. All right. So, games as a concept has been around for a very long time now. Now, video games is actually a modern entertainment construct. In the late 50s, there was a young nuclear physicist, really funny name, okay? His name is Willie Higginbotham, or Willie Higginbotham, as in Higginbotham, okay? And he worked at the Brookhaven National Laboratory, which I think is in New York. And basically, he invented the first electronic video game. He used an oscilloscope for his game, and his game actually paved way for this guy called Stephen Russell from MIT, a student from MIT, to create the very first computer game. So Willie Higginbotham didn't create the first computer game; he created the first video game. All right. And Steve Russell, the student from MIT, created the first computer game called Space Wars, and that was in 1962. Yeah, so just to show you what an oscilloscope is, basically an oscilloscope is a type of electronic equipment, testing equipment, that sorts of like visually or graphically shows electrical voltage or the difference in electrical voltage through some sort of like, oh, what am I pointing there in front of you? Through like a two-dimensional screen, yeah? Hence the word video games, right? It's not so much anything, but this is what we call a video display, all right? A CRT screen or video screen. So hence the term video games came from there. And the next to it is Pong, arguably one of the first, most successful commercial video games ever. Yeah, so video games is a modern day entertainment construct. It's been around, I think, for 70 years now. However, play is a natural construct. In order to understand gamification, or to understand why gamification works, or what is gamification, let us try to understand the power and appeal of video games. Why are video games so appealing in the first place? Why are people so engaged in video games? Why can people spend hours, or your kids? I'm not sure how many of you are married with kids. Yeah. I'm not sure how many of you have kids that spend hours playing video games. Yeah. And the biggest question you always have to ask yourself is, hey, why are video games so addictive? Okay, so there is this renowned video game designer, yeah, who is also the co-founder of the Game Development Conference. Very famous guy called Chris Crawford. And Chris Crawford once posed this question: in order to understand how to design games, you first must ask this question, right? Why do people play games, and what motivates them to do so? Yeah. So why do people play games, and what motivates them to do so? So let's address the first part. Gamification works only when we understand the reason or you understand the why behind it. And there are many schools of thoughts about the notion of play. Some people believe that play is something that can be learned. It's a non-essential part of biology and survival. That means play is something that we acquire along the way. We learn to play. Play is not an intrinsic value. Play is not a sort of like instinct on our part. But there are some who actually believe that the act of playing is actually a universal characteristic in evolution. All right. They believe that play itself is something that is biological. It's a biological human behavior. And they believe that it's so central to human development because it contributes to our social, physical, and emotional well-being. So play, some people believe, is a natural construct. All right. Yeah, so we're going into some deep psychological stuff. So I hope you don't mind me going there. So all following so far? All right, so remember, we're going to try to do this. We're going to understand why do people play games and what motivates them to do so. Okay? And we need to understand why do people play games. Right, Johan, exactly, an escape from reality. I'm going to go into that in a short while. You actually use the exact phrase which I am using as well, which I will use, okay? So yes, gamification is only effective, or you will understand gamification more once you understand the reason why people play games. Okay, so the slide is not moving. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not sure if you have heard of this person before, Jane McGonigal. I am sure most of y'all have heard of Jane McGonigal. She's a games designer. She's a games researcher. She covers a lot on video games. Uh, I think she also covers a little bit about games, gamification as well. So have you guys heard of Jane McGonigal? Michelle, have you heard of Jane McGonigal? And push Michelle to talk to me. Okay. All right.
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no. Okay. So she published a lot of books about why games are so uh intrinsic, why games are so engaging. Okay. And she said this, she said that studies have shown, right, that when people play video games, right, and this and what they did was they hooked people up to these neuro scanners, their brain scans, yeah, and they made the people play the video games, all right, and she has proven that brain scans, when people play video games, the brain scans show that the most active part of the brain during gameplay are two things. One is the rewards pathway system, okay, which is actually associated with motivation and goal orientation. All right, so the most active parts of the brains, number one is the rewards pathway system. Yeah, so motivation, goal getting, uh, ob- objectives, and everything, right? And the other one is the hippocampus. Yeah, I've not heard that in a very long time during my Form 5 science. I don't really pay attention in class, hence my very bad results. But the hippocampus, all right? Hippocampus, my goodness. Yeah, hippocampus, which is associated with learning and memory. So the two things, one is motivation and goal orientation, and the other is learning and memory. So when people play games, these are the two most active parts. Give you an example. When you exercise, your body emits or releases chemicals uh, known as dopamine. Okay, and dopamine is some sort of um, neurotransmitter that is produced in your brain. It plays a role of a reward center. Yeah, and in many of our body functions, right, including things like memory, movement, mood, orientation, so on and so forth. Wait, you all can see the screen, right? There's Jane McGonigal here, right? Or am I sharing the wrong screen? You should see one big screen here. Or are you seeing my other screen? I can't tell. I'm pausing it for a short while. Can you all see my screen? Sue, can you see my screen? Okay, all right. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so where was I? Uh, yeah, so um, dopamine is a sort of like neurotransmitter. Yeah, yeah. So it helps in many of the body functions, memory, movement, motivation, all those. Yeah. And if a person, right, experiences hyper um, arousal, yeah, I like the word hyper arousal, yeah, hyper arousal when playing video games, the brain sort of associates that activity uh, with dopamine, and the person then, right, develops a very strong drive to seek out the same pleasure again and again, and that is why people get addicted to video games because of the reward center. Yes, Johan, you're right. But not only dopamine. When you play a video game as well, your body also releases something called endogenous. Let me try to get this word. Endogenous morphine. Okay, which is commonly known as endorphins. And endorphins are produced during a game as a response to a certain stimuli. The very same way that you would get when you exercise. So exercising is a stimuli. Okay, so exercising releases both dopamine and endorphins. So when you exercise, uh, when you get excited, yeah, so exercise and excited can be together. When you experience pain, when there is love, when you're eating spicy food, when you're playing a particularly interesting round of golf or tennis, when you go for hiking, for those who likes hiking, yeah, you can get this thing called hiking high, mountain climbing, even the indoor climbing. When you do things that you are stimulated with, the brain releases endorphins and dopamine. And this basically, right, this dopamine addiction or this endorphin addiction is exactly like the nectar to our primal pleasures of our brain. We call it addiction. So I'm sure you've heard of it before: golf addiction, tennis addiction. You can get addicted to a lot of things, including spicy food, including coffee, so on and so forth. So there was one author that actually said this. He played when he played Angry Bird. So I don't know how many of you here plays Angry Bird or played Angry Bird. So Angry Birds is about a couple of funny colored birds that are slingshotted into the domains of the green pig. Yeah, that's because the green pig stole the eggs and everything. And this author was saying that he experiences a lot of satisfaction when the birds are launched into the pigs and it kills all the pigs. All right, and that moment where he manages to destroy the entire structure with one bird is sort of like a pleasure center. Yeah, he finds it like wow. Yeah, it's there is instant gratification in that. All right, so and he said that playing Angry Birds releases endorphins, yeah, and releases dopamines, uh, and once the endorphins are released in the brain, it makes you feel happy. So yeah, when you exercise, when you do something, when you eat and you play games, all these chemicals are released. And this shows one thing. Remember, I said play is a natural construct. the human brain is actually wired to sort of crave, right, instant gratification. Yeah, the human brain wants gratification. It seeks out gratification. It also seeks out things like fast pace and unpredictability. Yeah, um, in a very subconscious manner. By the way, all these three, instant gratification, fast pace, and unpredictability, are all satisfied in video games. But we'll get to that in a short while. So, play is a huge part of human experience because it gives us pleasure. Playing allows the release of dopamine and endorphins. All right. But not only that, play actually helped us form society and culture, which in a way helped humanity survival or humanity's dominance as a species. So yeah, um, it's not only about the reward centered and about pleasure, but it also helps us to learn. Okay, so when you play, you get rewarded. Yeah, and the reward is the dopamine and the endorphins, but also you learn. So apparently, right, motivation and learning is an important survival element. Playing is nature's way to getting us to learn. Yeah. So in other words, the instinct to play is an innate way for all humans and animals to learn. All right. So remember, we are here to find out why do people play games, huh? Yeah. We haven't answered the first question yet. Okay. Although we have some clues. All right. So why do people play games? Again, Johan, very good. Stress reliever. Okay. Um, but yeah, let's go deeper into it. So I want to touch on three different areas. Games, or rather play, is an unstructured uh, activity. Games is a minimally structured form of activity, and sports are a fully structured form of physical activity. Okay, let me explain. This is like a lecture now, right? I hope you guys are not bored. Are you guys bored yet? Not yet. Thank you, Mira. I like the word not yet, you know. Okay, so let's get the definition out of the way, right? You see, let's talk about play. What is play? You see, young people or adolescents are very creative when they engage in play. Kids instinctively know how to play. You don't need to tell them to, hey, this is how you play. You don't. Yeah, they don't need any coaches. They don't need any clinics. They don't need any cheerleaders. Play is a very uh, instinctive behavior. Now, I remember when I was young, and I could literally take anything and play. All right. I used to have two decks of cards. One green color, yeah, so normal playing cards, but the behind is green. One is red color, and the other one is blue color. And I used to take those blue color playing cards and like sort of build on a flat surface, right? Like form the cards into a human being, into a car, into walls and everything. And I took the red playing cards and I pretended it was fire, and yeah, that was a way of uh, playing for me, yeah, my or acting out my destructive capabilities or destructive tendencies. And if you don't know, for those who know me, those tendencies are still very active in today's work environment as well. Yeah, and a lot of people don't. Some of you are not don't really work with me. I'm quite ADHD one. Okay, I'm sure Michelle would agree. Cindy would probably agree. Yeah, this guy is a bit hyperactive. Yeah, so play is a physical activity in its purest form. Well, play doesn't always have to be physical. It can, in the sense of sports, it can be mental, but it requires a physical output. All right, whether you play with Barbie dolls, you play with GI Joe, it's not physical in the sense of sports, but it requires play acting. It requires you to be you can't play, can't sit down and just mentally play. All right, kids are not wired for those kind of things. Well, normal kids are not wired for these kind of things. All right, so yeah, playing, kids play and they require some physical acting out. So Lego, they play with Lego. They can play with pens. Yeah, when I was young, I used to take simple objects like, for example, the stapler, and I'll pretend it's like spaceships. I'll chase one spaceship after another. Even things like remote controls can be spaceships, and that's my form of playing. All right. So, from an evolutionary and biological point of view, it is not actually very immediately obvious, right? Why humans spend so much time on recreation and play. Why kids like to play. Um, and I'm sure those with kids will know that kids love to play. And you guys, when you were young, before the iPads and before the phones came out, we used to play literally with everything. Yeah. In my garden those days, I used to have a tree that drops star fruit, and I'll use those little star fruit to be like human beings, and I'll stab knives and everything inside there. Yeah. So I and I could, that could keep me entertained for hours. All right. So yeah, but it's not only humans, right? Animals also play. And yeah, like I mentioned, it's not immediately obvious why humans and animals spend so much time playing. Because, right, time spent playing is time not spent on looking for food, right? Time spent playing is not time spent doing something productive and necessary for survival. So why do we spend so much time playing? Or why is then play a natural construct? Well, I think that this behavior is not simply like an evolutionary side effect, yeah, or a genetic accident. We're not talking about the appendix. Yeah, appendix is a biological accident, right? It serves no purpose, much like politicians. Let's not get me into trouble. All right, yeah, but it's not like the appendix. Play is actually a huge, huge part of the human experience, especially amongst the young. So there must be some value in it. Remember, we're here to answer the question, why do people play games? So animals play in order to learn social ranks. Animals play in order to learn social rules. We learn, they play for practice, they play for motor skills, they play to bond. And like Johan said, they play to manage stress. Humans play and kids play. So I'm not sure how many of you know this. Uh, when you encourage your kids to play, they will learn certain things like how to share. When they play, they learn about sharing. They learn that what they can or cannot do while playing. So in a way, similar to animals, right? Animals play in order to learn social rules. Humans play in order to learn social rules as well. What can or cannot be done. They learn certain things. Yeah, they learn how to, for example, when kids play, um, and they play within a very structured environment, they learn to take their turn. They learn that they can't have it all their way. And that's why I always believe in kindergartens, right? That emphasize more play than memorization of uh, like alphabets and everything. Because play is very, very important. For both humans and animals, right? Play is actually a very low risk way to develop both our psychomotor and our cognitive skills. In fact, I'm just going to go one step further. It's not only developing our cognitive and psychomotor skills, play actually helps develop our affective skills as well, behavioral patterns as well. Yeah. So coming back to play, I tend to get derailed very often, right? So play is actually a very unstructured activity. There's no that you don't really need rules to play. when you play with Barbie dolls, there are no rules, right? There's no rules that the Barbies have to get dressed and perform this sort of function. When I play G.I. Joe or Star Wars toys or Lego, kids break all the rules for Lego. Yeah. And Lego is the most creative way for kids to play because they don't have to build those things. They can build anything they want to build. So there are no rules involved. Hence the word unstructured activity. On the other hand, games, I call it minimally structured. And games require some form of rules. All right. Games may either be competitive or cooperative. It may either be very, very physical, like hopscotch. So hopscotch is a game. Catching, police and thief, all those are very physical games. But games can also be mental. Card games, board games, chess. All those require rules. Yeah? When you play fishing, when you play jinrami, when you play chor tai ti, all those have rules. So games requires rules. Play doesn't require rules. Okay, and games can either be very, very physical or very, very mental. Yep. And of course, sports. The higher level are basically sports. All right. So from an academic standpoint, all these three words have a different meaning: play, games, and sports. When we watch our kids climb the trees or take the stones and throw in the river or pick up uh, whatever sticks and pretend to like go sword fighting with those sticks, that's play. As they age, we start to play catching with them. We buy them a football, we buy them a basketball, we buy them uh, uh, a badminton racket so that they can learn to play with other kids. Yeah, we make for them the 5 stones so they can go and play 5 stones with other kids. I'm not sure nowadays kids play 5 stone. Michelle, does your kids play 5 stones? Do they know 5 stones? Or jump rope or anything like that?
No,
It's a dying art, unfortunately. Yeah, I used to play 5 stones. It was a very effective way of getting to know girls because those days, right, guys don't play 5 stones on. It was mainly a girl thing, right? Cindy, I don't know whether you play 5 stones or not. Cindy, are you there? 7 stones? Oh my God. Okay, that's a bit
so you had
Five
many
stones and seven.
girlfriends because of that lah.
correct. I understood the secret of how to get into the social circles. But of course, growing up, that means all the guys think I'm sort of like a bit piffy lah, you know. Who cares? 7 stones, Johan. Well done. Yeah. So, yeah, to those are games, right? And as you get older, as the kids get older, they will start to run for the school or represent their houses, and that becomes sports. All right. So, play, games, and sports. For the purpose of this entire sharing, I will kind of use play and games interchangeably, definitions aside. Yeah. All right. So let's go into, I'm going to read this. Okay. So academic studies have shown that certain competitive games, if used properly, can promote social skills. Yeah. And skill development. And I think it applies to animals as well, right? Nowadays, the global concept of play has evolved into team sports, which is also a form of entertainment, whether you play or whether you see. All right. Very, very similar. Or an example of that is you don't have to play football to enjoy football. Look at the Manchester United supporters. Look at the Liverpool supporters, and look at the ever losing Tottenham Hotspurs. Hazim, is Gabriel listening to this? If he is, then I want him to hear that. Or watch gamers play. Correct, Cindy. Yeah. Nowadays, people don't really. They go on Twitch and they watch people play. They watch professional gamers play. You're right. Yeah. So it's evolved into an activity where you know it's a form of entertainment. But tens of thousands of years ago, right? team sports or competitive behaviors, yeah, were a critical part of survival. The early humans or tribes or civilizations learned to play fight, and team sports actually help the young hunter-gatherers learn skills, right, needed for lethal raids on other tribes later in life. One of the earliest recorded form of sports was this thing called bull leaping, yeah, in the island of Crete. And basically, they have to leap over the bulls, over the horns of bulls, and not get killed. And they made the slaves do that. All right. So it became a form of sports and a form of entertainment, which of the slaves could survive and which could not. But this was the earliest recorded instance. We have no idea whether during the, for example, the Neanderthal time, whether they actually had, uh, you know, sports per se. I'm sure they did. All right, I'm sure they did. The ancient Greeks were the lovers of sports, right? And they taught all these sports to their children at school. So they had activities such as wrestling, running, throwing the discus, throwing the javelin, gymnastics, and riding. All of these are actually physical skills. Yeah, all of these are necessary physical skills needed to build stamina and muscles. But not only that, it was to build military skills. Riding was a military skill. Gymnastics, in a way, was a military skill. Yeah, to be agile. Yeah, to be dexterous. Those are skills needed to survive in combat. Javelin throwing is a military skill as well. Yeah, you need to throw to learn how to throw spears, archery as well. So all this actually help build their young children for skills that they need to use later in life as warriors. Yep. But not only that, right? Competitive sports and games were also created to bring people together socially to either watch or play, yeah, or to help them settle disputes or conflict in a very, very organized manner. So, for example, I'm sure most of you have heard of the Colosseum, right? The Roman Colosseum. That was built in, I think, about 60 AD, 60, 70, 80 AD. And it was a period where gladiatorial games, people watch the combats, for pleasure. Yeah, they don't have to fight themselves, but they watch people maim themselves, attack each other for the sake of entertainment, much like American football or FIFA, soccer. Okay, I can't say soccer because I'm Malaysian, but football. All right, and things like this have been around for a very, very long time. Uh, Throughout history, sports have played a very, very important or a variety of important functions in society, not only for entertainment, but it's for the preparation of war, for hunting, yeah, uh, for whatever other purposes. So it's been around for a very long time. And competitive sports satisfy a human desire that was previously meant for violence. So instead of violence, right, uh, competitive sports were also used to, for entertainment purposes. All right. So yeah, back to the gladiatorial games and so on and so forth. All right. And an example of that, uh, in the 19th century, right, in the city of Manchester, okay, the city of Manchester in the 19th century was, David Tai is calling me, I'm not going to answer that. Yeah, in the 19th century, where was I? In Manchester, right, it was gripped by sort of an epidemic of youth gangs and knife crimes. Yeah, there was a lot of young people, the yokes, uh, who formed gangs and everything, and it was a life of crimes. Yeah, and a large part of Manchester was not safe, during that period. As you were walking, and you could be walking down the streets as a pedestrian, and you could be easily caught up in a fighting, yeah, or even be randomly attacked. All right. So what happened was, in the late 18th century or the late 19th century, a small group of people realized, right, that these groups of youth uh, needed some sort of other outlet to satisfy their psychological need for violence and psychological need for acting out their violent tendencies or superiority uh, other than gang membership and violence. Yeah, so they actually formed football clubs. They actually formed. They got all these gangs into the football field, and they asked them to play. Yeah, to settle disputes. Yeah, to get their physical energy out of the way. All right, and this worked very well. And this is actually, some people believe that it was the birthplace of football clubs. And the same principle has been applied in the modern world as well. In South America, the promotion of soccer or football in some area where there's very high gang activity, right, has led to a significant reduction in crime and violence. Right. So yeah, competitive sports, to choose the right spouse. You're exactly right, Mira. Uh, I think those days as well. Similar to animals, right? When animals fight, two animals fight, it's actually to see who is a better or more physically dominant one. Hence, you choose the right spouse. Okay. Not sure whether it occurs with modern in modern life, but in those ancient days, it's the best way to see whether you get a spouse uh, who is physically dominant or has the right genes, so on and so forth. Especially for animals, I'm not sure human beings. Interesting survey as well. Interesting research to be done. Yeah, so Mira, did you choose your spouse based on competitive sports? Yeah. All right. Yeah, and honestly, it's the same, right? Why okay, so I'm going back to my high school days and my primary school days. A lot of my friends would play football and participate in sports, right? Not so much for the glory of winning. It was more to show off. Yeah. And the girls would go like, oh, look at him, he's so muscular. He runs so fast. He represents the school. So in a way, you are right. It's also for that principle as well. Oh goodness. So yes, games is a great way to tell each other what we are good at, what we want to be appreciated for, and what we value in each other. Yeah. So it's only been recent. It's only recently that a lot of psychologists and sociologists are beginning to unravel the mystery of why our capacity and our desire for play is so powerful. And according to research, humans have this basic psychological need that is perpetually operating in our lives. And this need is basically for us, right, to provide an avenue to show off our proficiency and competency in physical and sometimes mental activities. All right, to show off that we are good. Yeah. So Cindy said basketball too. Yeah, we're doing good in basketball, football, running, all forms of sports, swimming, to show off our body, to show off our muscles, to show off our prowess. Everything is basically to show off. Basically, it's an avenue to puff up your chest and say that, hey, look at me. So really, right, games are all about victory and being a winner. It's to assert dominance. In short, it's for us to shout out that we are very good at something. Okay, so let's wrap it up. Why do people play games? Have I answered that question yet? let's go into a very deeper understanding from a psychological standpoint. Okay, so people play games because it's a biological action. People play games because it's an evolved social construct. We play to show off, we play to puff up our chest, we play to assert dominance, and people play because it's fun. Playing, yeah, is a universal human behavior, and as such, has been a subject of intense scientific research. So coming back again, remember that's what I said, play is actually unstructured, it's actually unprompted. Yeah, you don't have to force kids to play. Play is natural. There is this Dutch historian, I can't remember his name, Johan something, yeah, Johan something as well, who said this: play is internally motivated, or rather, play needs to be internally motivated. You must want to play, and it must be fun. So play needs to be internally motivated. At the same time, right, it's also an innate biological action. So some sorts of play may involve learning to work cooperatively with a group for survival, especially for animals. Animals may engage in sparring or chasing games to train and explore, to teach hand-eye coordination, the psychomotor aspect, but also to develop the cognitive development as well. For humans, play is a form to learn how to use your imagination. All right, when you play Barbie dolls, or when you play with objects, can be any objects, yeah, like this, yeah. I used to play, yeah, pretend this is a tank going about. I still do when I'm bored during meetings, yeah, doing online meetings. So it helps the imagination, it helps problem solving, yeah. Play teaches you to share, yeah. Kids, when kids play, it teaches them to share, how to communicate, how to act in a social setting, yeah. Other sorts of play helps animals to learn complex rules. What is an alpha male, what is a beta male, how do you listen to the alpha males, how to switch roles, how to build uh, you know social interactions. And when kids don't play, when kids fail to play right, it can actually result in inappropriate aggression, anxiety, and social isolation when kids don't know how to play. Okay. Yeah, I don't know whether you've encountered that. I think I've seen a lot of kids in kindergartens when they don't know how to play. They don't play. They don't know social behaviors. That's why it's actually very, very dangerous to only allow kids to play on mobile devices or devices all the time. When they don't have social interaction, they don't learn how to manage themselves well within a social environment. All right. Yeah. So again, play needs to be internally motivated and most importantly, fun. You cannot force someone to play, right? You can't force your kids to play. You can't go to your kids and say, I want you all to play now. Play now. If the kids don't feel like playing, they won't play. Yeah. And you can't say that, you can't tell them, have fun. Yeah, because fun is subjective, right? Fun can be purely entertainment. Watching a movie can be fun. I like watching. I'm not sure how many of you have watched Miss Marvel and um, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I like watching movies, okay, or TV series. Winning can be fun. Playing itself can be fun. The social aspect of playing can be fun. Yeah, when you're with your friends. So fun is subjective. Okay, so let's dive deeper now. So we've answered this thing. Why do people play games? People play because number one, it's a innate biological action. Yeah, it's instinct for us to play. It's an evolved social construct. We play because it helps us to develop our social behavior, and we play because it's fun. So let's dive into the next question. What motivates us to play video games? Okay, all there so far not? It's been 1 hour. I hope I'm not boring you all to death. I'm sniffling now. The aircon is so. All right. So let's dive deeper. So we asked these two questions, right? Why do people play games, and what motivates them to play games? So let's cover a little bit on to that. So games build a sense of accomplishment and achievement. So let's recap a bit. Games are all about being a victory, games are all about victory and being a winner. It's for us to assert dominance. It's fun. It's internally motivated. And people play of all ages, right? Play games for various reasons. Video games serve a purpose, and everyone plays it for a reason. So, yeah, like Johan mentioned just now, right, to escape reality, right? Gamers often throw this term around called escapism when talking about playing games. But actually, I feel that it's a very hollow explanation for what actually motivates us to play game. The word escape contains some negative implications, yeah, suggesting those who actually like playing video games that needs to break free of their mundane slavery of their reality. We don't, yeah. Well, actually, we do. We enjoy retreats to other realities, right? We enjoy going on holidays. How many of you here likes to go on holidays? And holidays a fun way to escape lah, quote unquote, escape our normal job, yeah, or at least the stress of work. Yeah, so although for people with kids, holidays is actually or vacations is actually you need a vacation to recover from your vacation. All right, so yeah, I remember those days. Planning holidays actually means getting a whole bunch of logistic. You need to plan how to keep the kids entertained. You need to bring enough diapers to last for 3 days, which equates to one luggage bag. So it becomes it's more stress than anything else. All right, but yeah, planning for the entire family too, young and old, correct? Yeah. And for Sujata, going on trips is also planning to see how your pets at home can be taken care of, right? So I'm using Sujata's name here so to see whether she's actually paying attention. I can't see her from where I'm sitting. Yep. So yeah, we don't always play games to escape from our lives. I think the real motivations are far more complex. Holiday is just being at home alone for me. Yeah, okay. Uh, I tried to tell that to my wife. I take leave just to be at home. She says, "Oh, I take leave, go on holiday lah." Yeah, I just go like, no lah. I prefer just resting at home and switching off the computer, which that never happens because everybody texts me one way or another. Yeah, nowadays I go on leave at time, right? Go for holidays, I bring laptop along. Sad but true. All right. So yeah, coming back to games, games actually helps to fulfill a lot of real world human needs. Okay, so I'm going to show this next slide, and I'm sure most of y'all are very familiar with this. Okay, the first one who can name me what this slide is and type the answer there gets a free lunch from me. Yeah, we can go lunch together, and this is not an excuse for a date. So yeah, Michelle. Oops, or free coffee for that matter. Okay, just type it out the answer for free coffee, and ta-da! What is this? I'm sure all of you have seen it before, right? I'm gonna put. Yep, Michelle. Yeah, Maslow's. Sorry, Julian. Although it was correct, but the spelling was wrong. So yeah, Michelle fast gonna do that. So okay, we go for lunch, Michelle, or dinner. Yes. So there's this guy called Scott Rigby. I'm not sure whether you've heard of Scott Rigby. Scott Rigby actually said that all humans, right, have basic psychological needs. And these needs are always, always, always operating in our lives. So yes, Maslow's hierarchy of needs model, which is a theory of which is a theory in human motivation psychology. Why are we motivated to act and do the things we do? Yeah, and this is detailed in this 5-tier pyramid model. Okay, explaining right how these needs motivate us. And the model is represented through a hierarchical level within a pyramid structure. Okay, so the bottom two deals with the necessities of survival, right? Or emotional and physical well-being. The bottom one, I think we studied this in science. What is needed for humans to survive, right? Which is basically food, shelter, security, and clothes. Yeah, I mean, food, food, water, shelter, and clothes. All right, these are the most essential stuff. Although some might argue you need Wi-Fi, yeah, or a good data plan. Yeah. After that, you deal with the safety needs. Yeah. Something that will help both our physical and our emotional well-being. Things like personal security. Yeah. So first is shelter. The next is personal security, employment, health, property, resources. Yeah. So the bottom two are essentials. But once you go up the other three levels, right? It deals with things like influence, a sense of belonging, self-development, self-esteem, and of course, the highest is self-actualization. Maslow actually breaks down the esteem needs, yeah, the second highest level, into two very distinct categories. Esteem for yourself, all right, which covers attributes like dignity, achievement, and mastery, and a desire for reputation. So two esteem for yourself and esteem for reputation, a desire for reputation, to seek out respect, which covers attributes like achieving status, independence, and prestige, glory, if you must. Remember just now we talked about why do people play games? People play games to puff up our chests, to show that we have done it, we're at the top tier, to show that we are good. And this is something that basically operates as a psychological need. We do it because it's a psychological nature for us to do it. All right. So yeah, these needs, right? These esteem needs can be broken down into three areas. So Rick B actually breaks it down into three areas: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. So let me explain all this. I'm not sure whether you guys have heard of this. I'm very, very sure you guys have, all of you all have read about Maslow, but I'm not sure whether you've read about Rick B. Yeah, competence, autonomy, and relatedness. If you have, just tag there you have. If you haven't, just tag there you haven't. Okay, so yeah, no one is tapping. Yeah, so competence is basically this, where we feel the need to be successful, where we feel the need to be competent. It's an innate desire, right, to seek out control over a particular moment, over a particular skill or knowledge or situation. We all want to be, whatever we do, okay, normal human behavior, we're talking about normal human behavior, whatever we do, we want to be, we tend to want to master it. Yeah, master the situation, we want to control, we want to be good at what we do. And there is this perpetual desire to feel a sense of growth and accomplishments in our life, whether it's at work or whether it's at play. Yeah, and this psychological need is termed as competence. Okay, normal human behavior, we always want to we always want to seek out mastery or control over our lives, right? Hmm. The next is this thing called the desire to feel independence. Yeah, the desire to have a certain degree of control over our lives, and this is called uh, autonomy. Okay, and this could be the reason why humans crave freedom. All throughout history, you have heard about people, humanity rising up for freedom. Yeah, the Scots seeking freedom over the British. Uh, India seeking independence. I'm sure some of you. I'm not sure how many of you have watched Mat Kilau. Have you all watched Mat Kilau? I haven't. I'm going to watch hopefully next weekend. Yeah, we Mat Kilau is about, yeah, the Malay, or this the Pahang royalty, or the Pahang society rising up to break the yokes of the English rule. Yeah, so they crave for uh, independence. They crave for freedom. The loss of freedom is the loss of autonomy. Yeah, in the sense that imprisonment and slavery can be construed as a form of punishment. That's why slavery, imprisonment is the ultimate form of punishment, because you lose your autonomy and freedom. Okay, and last, relatedness, the desire to feel as though we are significant and that we matter to others. It's the desire to feel as though we have made some form of significant contribution to society or the community. So it's actually a desire to be relevant and needed. Yeah. To feel significant, right, implies that you matter, that your life matters. Yeah. And your empowered choice can better your life and also to those around you. So humans are not really meant to feel the emotions of importance in a vacuum. Yeah, when you're alone, uh, when you're all alone, you don't. The need to feel significance is not there. We feel important, right? Because we get feedback from others around us. When we find our purpose or feel appreciated for who we are and what we have done, we get fulfilled. Yeah. So sometimes, especially young people, or even now, old people as well, we sometimes want to be appreciated, right? Sometimes when someone says, well done, we feel it. Same reason why we have awards, yeah, is to show that, hey, you've done well. Yeah. So bonuses, well, that's a monetary form of reward. But even a simple pat on the back sometimes can be all or what we need. Yeah, this is because when we get the kind of positive feedback and reinforcement from others, it feels as though we are making a difference. That is why when you are not feeling related, when humans do not feel that form of relatedness, when they don't feel that they matter, when they feel that they are insignificant, that is where suicidal tendencies happen. Do you agree with me? Yeah, because they have lost an esteem portion of it. So this is very important. Competence, autonomy, and relatedness. So what are all these? So maybe these are what motivates us to play games, right? Because games have this ability to tap into these three things, these three fundamental psychological needs. And over the centuries, we have gravitated to experiences that has made us feel more competent, more autonomous, and more related, because all these experiences makes us feel good and keeps us mentally healthy. Okay, patience. I'm coming to the gamification part. Yeah, because you see why, right? Sociologists are beginning to understand why video games are the most seductive of activities, because it fulfills these three psychological needs. Yeah, uh, a game's narrative, right? A game makes as though our choices feel significant. When you play games, especially some narrative games, there are quests. Uh, when you perform a quest, you feel significant. Yeah, you feel as though you made a, a good choice, especially for online games as well, or online games when you kill the boss, when you gain a specific level, we buy into the game emotionally, and the feedback mechanism in games, right, encourages us to keep working. So game feedback our actions in many ways through quests, rewards, unlock storyline, experience points, goal, currency. We get a very, very instant feedback mechanism. And remember early on, I said humans crave instant gratification. Games give this instant gratification more so than work. When was the last time you felt appreciated in work? I'm gonna ask this. Cindy, when was the last time you felt appreciated in work? And this is my fault. Oh goodness. Sujata, when was the last time you felt appreciated in work?
Every day was every day.
Every day, eh? Okay, okay. Sujata, Cindy, Julian, job well done. You guys are awesome. Mira, awesome. Okay. So I fulfilled this for today. Yeah, but in reality, we don't, right? We don't always, in especially in work, even in a family life. Not sure when was the last time your kids or your husband or your spouse told you that, hey, thank you, you did well. Yep. So a lot of people, a lot of young gamers tend to escape into games because they give the feedback mechanism very fast, very well. But not only that, games are entertaining. It's fun. All right. So, are you all still with me? Okay. So let's cover. Yes, yes. Okay. And no one has left yet, right? That's good. So yeah, people play games because it's more consistent and rewarding players. People play games because it provides a diversity of choice. And people play games because it is a social platform uh, for engagement. Okay. So games are entertaining. Games allow us to not know how well we did, but to show others how well we did as well. Yeah. Games are immediately rewarding, providing instant feedback when we do something right and when it tells us at every step of the way. In other words, games excel in setting clear goals and showing how well you progress towards those goals. So yeah, I've answered why do people play games. I've answered what motivates us to do so. So how do we tie it all back down to gamification? So it's 11:16 right now. I'm going to skip over the next few slides because I don't feel it's important. So yeah, games are split into uh, games for entertainment and games for non-entertainment. As you recall later, gamification is the use of the concept of games in a non-game context. So you don't need to have the actual game itself for gamification to work. All right. Games are divided into these 5 categories. You have your normal game, which are the video games, board games, and anything, computer games, and it's a construct meant for entertainment purposes, and the focus is for amusement. You have serious games. So serious games is the uh, polar opposite of normal games. Serious games is games designed for any other purposes besides entertainment. But serious games uses game engines. That means you have to use the game itself for any purposes besides entertainment. And these are simulations. Yeah. When you see flight simulators, when you see a simulated environment for training, for healthcare, these are all serious games. It's not meant for entertainment, but it's using games engine or the concept of games. All right. You don't have to have the reward system in play for serious games to matter. You just have to use games engine. So, like the armed forces uses a similar engine that Call of Duty users or Unreal Tournament users to teach their people how to shoot, how to pilot a drone. These are all game engines. Educational games are using the games engine for educational purposes. That is education games. Game-based learning is using existing games such as Minecraft and Roblox, even games such as Civilization, to teach things like mathematics. Yeah, for example, I can use Angry Birds to teach on the principles of trigonometry or the principles of physics. All right, so that's game-based learning. Gamification only uses the concept of games, using the mechanics of games to engage and motivate people. The problem with gamification is that a lot of people uses this very surface level of games, okay, to teach on to use it in a non-game context. So what do I mean by surface level? So before that, before you can understand that, let's go into the history of video games. Yeah, because in order to understand how gamification works, you need to understand video games. You need to understand game mechanics. You cannot just use gamification and say gamification is about leaderboards. It's not. There is something deeper that happens. Yeah. So let's talk about the history of video games. And while video games started in the 1950s through the Tennis for Two by Willie Higginbotham, it actually only really took off in 1972. And that's where Pong became the first commercially successful arcade games. And during those days, people play games either as a form of challenge or to achieve something. Remember, I asked this question, why do people play games? And what motivates them to do so? Well, it's more consistent at rewarding players. People like to win, but they don't only play to win and to show off. Yes, Cindy, to play, to game and watch. Yeah. They also like to show off. So early days of gaming, especially Pong, Space Invaders, the arcade machines used to have high scores, right? And the high scores, you can put your 3-digit to show off. Hey, I'm damn good at this game, therefore I'm in the high score. All right. But it's not entirely true. People tend to think that the whole purpose of playing games was to get their names on the high score. Yes, but it was also because it was fun. Okay, not only for the high score, but the process of getting to the high score is because it was fun. And if you look at such games such as Pong, it not only involved high score, it not only involved the fun elements, but it involved the social elements as well. So gamification is not only high score and leaderboards. We need to actually also understand, if you look at it, how games have evolved. If you look at this red portion here, this is the mobile game boom. This is also where you see about the biggest boom happening. It's also at this period of time. Not so much a technological improvement, but it was also the internet, the advent of social online games. If you look at the arcade machines died down towards this period because arcade machines could not compete with the social elements that mobile afforded, consoles and PC games afforded. Okay, so yeah, thanks to this pervasiveness of video games, right, and their immersive and engagement quality, right, it has actually spawned a lot of other forms of media as well. Okay, so basically, let's cover on Pong. Pong was unusual in that it requires two people to play. Yeah, you took a pedal and you controlled one side, and the other person controlled the other side, and it was fun. It had a high score, But most importantly, right, Pong was a sensation because the first time, Pong, people could control what they saw on the TV screen. It was engrossing because it was a two-player game, but it actually had that social aspect. You could play with somebody and you could beat that somebody. Remember, we talk about sports and dominance. Video games such as Pong allowed us to do that. Yeah. The question remains, right? Would you play a game and win if no one is there to see you win? Well, some people do, self-gratification, but most people it's about showing off. They play games such as World of Warcraft in order to gain higher levels and again to show off, to assert their dominance within a bunch of other fellow gamers. So, academic research into the use of gamification, yeah, always talks about badges and leaderboards. But badges and leaderboards represents the lowest level of abstraction in games design. Okay? Games are not only about badges and high scores. It involves so much more from that. So to fully understand gamification, you need to understand the principles of games design. And I'm going to rush right now because I'm running out of time. Okay? So, these are basically games design. And basically games design talks about what are games designers. Games designers are basically people who try to make the game fun, the game addictive, the game immersive, and the game engaging. Okay, so for gamification to work, you must focus on the other aspects of video game mechanics. Yeah, it's not only about badges and points, because when you talk about RPG games, we talk about other games, right? You talk of it's other elements as well. You have the social elements, you have the reward elements, you have the other elements that comes together to make games fun. Okay, so let's consider these things, right? Just now I was talking about all this. Play needs to be internally motivated and importantly fun, and most importantly fun. Play needs to get us people to get a sense of independence and a degree of control in their life. People play games to get a desire to feel as though they a sense of growth and accomplishment, and people play to feel a sense of significance. Remember, there are three things people play. Why do people play games? It's because of competency, autonomy, and relatedness. The drive towards autonomy is why people instinctively like being manipulated or being in jail, right? A great part about online games and video games is that is you can go anywhere and you can feel as though you make your own choices. All right. For people who feel as though they don't have much independence in their physical world, video games are a great place to be. That is why a lot of young people who are facing a lot of psychological or even their high school is very restrictive, they escape it to video games. When they cannot succeed in their school life, video games help them escape. Why? Because they feel that they have competency in video games. They feel as though they can master the video games, therefore they feel relevant. Yeah. And also, when they play games online, they have friends there. So they feel a sense of uh, being significant. You feel closer to a group of people you play because you share a common goal. So gamification needs to consider these four factors. Okay? Gamification needs to consider the concept of gamefulness. All right. What is gamefulness? Very simple. Gamefulness is basically player engagement. How do you measure player uh, uh, player engagement. Now, one of the concept why gamification doesn't work for everybody is this. A lot of people think that once I put in a leaderboard, once I put in badges, once I put in high score, that it is gamified. It doesn't work that way. Yep. And a good explanation is this. If I create a video game such as Tetris, I cannot just use the concept of all the design I did for Tetris and put it to another game and expect it to achieve the same success. Angry Birds was a very successful game. It made millions of downloads. It was downloaded 100 million times, and it gained about $1 billion. Yeah, but Angry Birds was not an original game. It was based off another game called Cannon, yeah, which came out in the 1980s, and there were other games like it, but it managed to use other formulas incorporated into that in order to make Angry Birds so successful. And other people have tried to emulate Angry Birds with no success as well. So yeah, there are no magic bullets to fully emulate successful video games. And the evidence for this statement is the plethora of and the amount of substandard and mediocre games that's available in the market today. That won't be the case, right? Because there are so many game design books out there. All people have to do is just use all those game design books, incorporate it into their games, and voila, successful. Doesn't work that way. And the same applies with gamification. So I want to teach you about two things, which is called gameful design and gameful systems. Gamefulness is a formula between these two. Gameful design is a procedure of designing games using game design elements. And gameful system is a vehicle to provide an overall positive gameplay experience for users. So gameful systems is the psychology of video games. Yeah, whereas gameful design is the tools. You can have the principles of game design, but you need to craft the experience in order for games to work. So the more prevailing and evident a gameful design is, the more effective a gameful system can be. Okay, there is no one size fit all. So what this tells you is gamification alone is the tool, but you need to be able to craft the experience. Okay, now we're getting into the thing, and hopefully half an hour is enough. Oops, not moving. Yep. So I have this thing, and I think Julian is quite familiar with this. I have this thing called a vertical gameful system and a horizontal gameful system. You see, when I talk about vertical, right? Vertical implies an advanced tier-based system where players climb tiers to obtain points, attain higher, accumulate badges. So in actual fact, when you talk about gamification, gamification is about all this, right? Points, badges, levels, leaderboard, challenges. This implies a very tier-based system where you go up. You have to climb up level by level to attain a tier. Okay, and this is more on the competency level. But I want to open the door now to another level called the social level. And social level means the interaction. Because a gamification which is based purely on the vertical axis tends to get very stale very fast. And let me prove that point. Yep. Don't know how many of you have played this game such as Exploding Kittens, Politico, and Stable Unicorns. Have you all played? Or games like Uno, for example? Yeah, I'm going to pause for a short while. I'm not sure how many of you are bored to death right now. Yeah, good games, right? Played Uno, okay? This HR game is by one of our former staff, Ivan. All right. So yeah, when you play Uno, right, it's all about winning, right? But it's not only about winning, you know. Uno has that interaction where you interact with other players, where you can kill other players, ask them to draw four, draw two, reverse. You know, uh, that sort of that sort of interaction with other players. It's not only about winning, but it's the fun play of winning as well. Okay, so a method of actually increasing player immersion and engagement, right, is to ensure that there's a utilization of certain emotions that players or in fact learners will experience during gameplay. And this emotions is classified as a visceral level emotion, which is a superficial form of emotion that is geared to get a player's direct attention. Yeah, we want an emotional response in gameplay in order to enforce or reinforce that game experience. Remember, why do people play games and what motivates them to do so? Yeah, people play games because they want to show off. People play games because they want to experience a sense of mastery. People play games because they want to feel significant. And all those emotions, especially within a social context, all right, called the meaningful choices, ensures that a player is able to sort of get a feedback and that interaction where they not only beat the player, but they ensure that someone sees them beating them. So the interaction happens. Okay. This is what I call, if I go back to this, a cross between the social element and the competency, which is the middle pathway, social competitive. I want to just share something with you. People play games not only sometimes to get quests, to win objects, to go up higher in levels. A lot of games people play are also for the social aspect only. They can stay and in a game and just talk to people and interact with people because that allows them to fulfill one aspect of their of the relatedness or the Maslow's theory, that esteem portion of games. Okay, so yeah, how do we gamify our gamification? Okay, so what motivates people to play games? Well, as mentioned, it's rewarding players. It provides a diversity of choices, and it's a social platform for engaging. So let's address why people like to play games. And let's provide these elements in your gamified classrooms. So we need to balance between vertical and social. And we need to increase the fun and the autonomy factors. And the reason why I say this is because I've read some horror stories. Some people told me how they gamify their classroom. They put in like a RPG quest inside. There's a storyline, and you force the students down a very linear path. That is not gamification per se. Okay, it's a form of gamification, but that is not pure gamification. Because why? You take away the autonomy. All right. So I'm very, very mindful of timing right now. Uh, I like to have these 5 considerations of games design. Yeah, choice, chance, challenge, comparison, and competition. Choice, of course, is autonomy. Chance is because there is always a chance. It's nothing is fixed in games. There's always a, a percentage of something failing. Yeah, uncertainty, a little bit of uncertainty and unpredictability. Humans say that they don't like unpredictability, but in a way, chance allows them to feel alive. Yeah, hence that's why people gamble. Hence that's why games such as Uno is fun because there's always an element of chance inside. You draw the cards. Sometimes you draw the right card, sometimes you draw the wrong cards. Challenge, of course, is something that is a consideration in game design. Comparison, people like to compare how they did, yeah, compare and contrast how well I did. And of course, competition. It's always a competitive, that vertical aspect. Okay. So sometimes, right, in games such as PUBG and Fortnite and mobile games, it's all about showing off what they have. Yeah. Hence the comparison part of it. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to skip this part, but I encourage you all to search out this thing called the Octolysis Gamification Framework. Okay, and we're going towards the end of the class right now. End of the class, end of the talk so far. Yeah, so let me share with you how I use the gameful system in the class. So Cindy would probably be familiar with this, as well as Julian. All right. Yeah, so I basically focus on the gameplay mechanics. Yeah, so chance, choice, challenge, comparison, and competition. And I basically put it in, and I tested it in an entrepreneurship class. Okay, so what I did was this. We tested a class which had pure gamification elements only, pure vertical gamification. That means the class only had leaderboards, only had badges, yeah, and that was all. So the students only had to attain all those things. We had a class with no gamification elements being used at all. It was basically just social environment, okay? And we had a class where I actually put in the social elements as well as the vertical elements put together. And we did a survey. Now, this was not a one-time class. We ran over a period of 2 to 3 semesters. And we tested the results together. Okay, it showed significantly that classes where they had both the social aspect and the horizontal aspect, vertical and horizontal aspect, played a very, very positive role in student engagement. So let me walk through what I did. Okay, so one of the things I did was this. We had an entrepreneurship class where I had where I gave them a series of tasks every week. So all of them formed into groups. Okay, I had students from mass comm, hospitality, games, business, and everybody. I put them into groups. We had two types of classes. One with just the groups and we gave them tasks, and the other was this. Okay, so basically what happened was we formed them into groups and they have their assignment. Yeah, so the assignment for entrepreneurship was to form a company and come up with a product. So in between that, I actually asked those groups, and I actually created tasks. Every week, I gave them tasks. The first task could be get yourself into groups and come up with a group name. And the first group that came up with it gets 20 points. The second group gets 15 points. Third group gets 10 points, so on and so forth. So all those tasks, right, adds no value to their semester. I made it very clear. You do those tasks, it adds no value to your marks. Those are side tasks. They don't have any, they can't get assignment points from there. It's just task. Those tasks adds no value to their actual final assignment. Yep. But what those tasks does, it earns you points. And what those points does, it puts you in a leaderboard. So here's the thing. What I did was the leaderboard is not only a leaderboard, but the leaderboard grants them currency. So the points earned becomes currency in order to buy items. Okay, so I created a shop and the shop allows them to buy certain items. So for example, 60 points, you could use you minus your points gained here in order to buy this item. Okay. So items, I guess, such as all this. So they could have items that, for example, this, that they don't have to wear formal during presentation, but they still get the full marks during presentation. They can have items where they can actually add additional 2 minutes to their presentation. They can add items which makes us forget what kind of questions. That means we don't ask them the hard. If we ask them a hard question and they cannot answer, they can use the item to make us bypass that question. All right. But not only items like this, they could actually buy items that can interact with other groups. So they can actually blind an opposing item group for 8 hours and make them lose out on any task announcements. They can buy items which give them bonus marks, yeah, on the assignment. They can cancel item being played. They can force another team to speak in a very high-pitched voice. They can steal items. Yeah, they can, you know, group with other items to get points. So it's a lot of items they can either steal points, double their points, blind the other person. So there is a lot of social gameplay going on. The gamification is not only about the leaderboard, it's about them buying the points in order to have that gameplay with their fellow classmates. And it actually works. I found out that, yeah, so during the game, during the class, you see a lot similar to Uno. A lot of the other teams try to sabo groups. Yeah, they play items to make them wear plastic cups, to make all the presenters wear pink. If they don't wear pink, then they lose points. So it becomes a very, very interactive gameplay. All right, so their class every week becomes a massive game. So gamification is not only about leaderboards. Gamification is about also that social environment, that fun aspect of games. Okay. I also made things like this. They can spin the wheel and they're supposed to force them to switch on their webcam. So it becomes a sort of like a motivation for them to buy items, for them to switch off the webcam or to reflect the webcam to someone else. I created items that also they could play on me to make me do stupid things. And yeah, surprisingly, they actually like to actually get items, to finish the task, to rush to finish the task. And by the way, it became very competitive, right? Force them to do their task in order to get items and to play items on each other and also on me as a lecturer. Yeah. So it becomes a very, very fun gameplay aspect. So gamification is about that. Gamification is how to make the class fun, that they can play, that they are not only interested in the class, but they participate in the class in order to do certain things, in order to get their gameplay juices running. Remember, why do people play games and what motivates them to do so? Yeah. Um, People play games because it's fun. People play games because then they can brag. People play games because it's entertaining. So gamification has to incorporate the social element there as well. Okay, yeah, and to flex, because at the end of the day, the leaderboard is a form of flexing. They were constantly there to actually to see who is in the top of the leaderboard. All right, and so then that fun part comes where you can sacrifice your points to buy items, meaning that you're not no longer in the leaderboard, the top, but that points may actually help either gain more points later by stealing other people's points or give you an advantage. So it's a very strategic thing. Okay, and just to share with you, remember I told you originally one size doesn't fit all, because later on, I actually ran class which was individual based. I taught a research methods class, and I used the same formula, but it didn't work. So I had to restructure it to fit a situation for an individual class. So individual works differently than group. The social dynamics are different. Yeah, it took me about 3 semesters to get the formula right. Only this semester that does the class actually participate in the gamification. Yeah, everybody did originally, even the individual. They wanted to get a leaderboard, but there is no fun element. So gamification, right? People can participate but not have fun. By the way, you can gamify a classroom, but it's not effective as well. Okay. I never thought I could do 2 hours of talking in a non-class setting. But yeah, um, so I hope that you guys got a little bit about what gamification is. Maybe I should have, the next time I have it will probably be a little workshop onto how to gamify an actual environment. So I'll just open the time now. If you have any questions or suggestions, or even if you want to share on your experiences on what gamification is about. Okay. So let me reiterate. So gamification for me is about not only about leaderboards, not only about badges, but it's also about the use of game design. Yeah. So I used similar things like in Angry Birds, in Angry Birds Blood, in Exploding Kitties, in Uno, all those elements in order to make a very, very social environment, how you can cancel cards, how you can protect yourself, how you can kill your opponents, how you can blind opponents. So it's a very, very interesting gameplay. And it took a while to get it right. All right. Yep. Any questions? Everybody is just here to just get that EPD hours, is it? Your training hours. No? The chat, no questions? No questions for no? All right, then, yep. If there is no questions, I mean, feel free to uh, email me or yeah, follow my Instagram and ask me questions through there because I want followers. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. All right. If there's nothing, then thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I hope none of you have fallen asleep. I rushed towards the end because I took too much time in the beginning. But it's very important to actually understand why do people play games and what motivates them to do so. And once you understand that, you can understand why gamification is the way it is. Yep. All right. Thank you so much. If there's nothing, then I'll have a good weekend ahead and have fun. Yay. Bye-bye. You all. Thank you. I exit. Ka-ching. Okay, Hazim, I fulfilled my KPI. Ha 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 ha. Okay, bye bye. See you all. Can I go? Hazim do not pay attention. Okay. Okay. Quit.